Hello, BookTube. This is Weekly Reads, a very Bael-heavy Weekly Reads. So I started my reading week with a Bael redemption of The Opium War by Juliet Lovell. This is a history of the first Opium War between Britain and China that lasted from 1839 to 1842. And it's a new take. It uses Chinese sources that had only been published in the last 30 years, and the book spins off from the first Opium War to discuss how the Opium War was interpreted in both Britain and China. So the Opium War is a Bael redemption, which is my term for second or more readings of books I'd previously bailed on. So, at the beginning of this year of 2022, I embarked on a reading project, No Fiction 2022, in which I would read no fiction in 2022. I would only read nonfiction. It was doomed to failure. And as part of No Fiction 2022, the first 6 books I would read in 2022 were part of my name tag TBR. Late last year, there was a book tag that made the rounds called the name tag, and you basically, participants would take the letters of their name and match the first letter of a book title to that letter. And I thought it would make an awesome TBR, so that's what I did. And of the 6 books I picked, I managed to finish 2 of them and bailed on the other 4. The Opium War, of which was 1. It was the second book I was going to read in 2022, and it's a dense academic book, and it's a slog. My progress was incredibly slow the first time I read it, and I was having a horrible week that week, and so on, I think it was the 5th of January, I had a bit of a meltdown, and that led to me making, I think, 11 pages in an hour or so, and that I couldn't. So I put the Opium War aside and decided I would come back to it, as well as the other 3 books of the name tag TBR, as well as a few other works of nonfiction that I bailed on both this year and last year. And the Opium War was going to be the first of them, and I ended up bailing again because it's a slog. It was just, I think maybe if I give it a little bit more time, I'll be able to get into it. So I'll give this another Bael redemption maybe sometime next year. But for now, I'm rather done with the Opium War. So what I'm going to do for this weekly reads is I'm going to go through the Baels first, and then talk about the 5 books I actually did manage to read this week. So the second book I bailed on this week, and frustratingly, is Priest of Gallows by Peter McLean. This is the 3rd book in the War for the Rose Throne series. It's about a gang boss named Thomas Piety, who he lives in the city of Ellenberg, and he is conscripted to fight in a war. When he returns from the war to his hometown in Ellenberg, he finds that his businesses, his territories, have been taken from him, and he uses the remnants of his regiment that had followed him to Ellenberg as the core of a new gang, the new Piasmen. Joining him is his brother and his brothers, the remnants of his brother's regiment who followed him to Ellenberg. And so they begin to take back the businesses and their streets. This leads to him being noticed by the Queensmen, the secret service of this particular kingdom, and he is approached and pretty much ordered to do what he's doing, and the Queensmen will support him because the rival gangs are being supported by a rival foreign power who's planning on using Ellenberg as a invasion beachhead, even though Ellenberg is not on the coast, and I'm not entirely sure if the geography ultimately pans out. But anyway, so book 1, Priest of Bones, basically is the Piasmen reclaiming their streets. Book 2 sees pretty much the Piasmen battling another major gang who's taken control of half of the city while the Piasmen control half, and sees Thomas eventually take control of the entire city because he's pretty much taken out most of the Scanians, the foreign influence. He is also eventually appointed a Queensman and temporary governor of Ellenberg. I don't like Priest of Lies as much as I did Priest of Bones. While the first and third part of the story is good and interesting. I mean, it's pretty much pretty good sequel to Priest of Bones. There's a Dansberg middle, and it pretty much leaves the novel going like this. It's just, I mean, the only thing that saves the Dansberg middle is Elsa's parents, and they're a hoot. And unfortunately, Priest of Gallows is the Dansberg middle as an entire book. And so, okay, so Priest of Gallows starts with Thomas Piety as governor of Ellenberg. His position in the Piasmen has been taken by his second, Bloody Ann, and the peace is held. One day he receives a messenger informing him that he will soon be replaced as governor, and once his replacement arrives, to hightail it to the capital, Dansberg, because the queen is dead and all Queensmen are needed to maintain the capital. So he does so. He learns the queen's been murdered, and everybody's a suspect, up to and including her consort and her daughter, her heir. And so pretty much it's like torturing everybody to find out who did it. Then a whole slew of other people need to be tortured and murdered, I guess because they're somehow a threat or something. It's basically one brutality after another that by nearly 200 pages in, I'm not entirely sure there was much of a plot. And maybe there's some character development, but I don't know, because Thomas Piety tends to, his character is usually quite consistent throughout the entire novel, or through all of them. So, like a sort of a further degradation or further fall of his character into pretty much a Gestapo or SS or KGB operative or whatever it was during the Romanovs. It's just, I didn't like this at all. So I bailed on it, and I'm really not sure I'm going to continue with the final book in the tetralogy. So, disappointing indeed. And then the third book I bailed on this week is Somebody Loves You by Mona Arshi. This is maybe prose poetry, maybe, I think it's a novel in prose poetry about a young girl who might grow up. I didn't stick around long enough to find out how old she gets, who at some point decides she doesn't want to talk. And it's all kind of cutesy, I would think. It's sort of poetic, but it didn't work for me at all. So I made it a few sections in, and then I just gave up. Don't know if I will redeem it or not. We shall see. So, what did I actually enjoy reading this week? Manga. After I bailed on the Opium War, on Sunday I decided to read 5 volumes of Eden's Zero. Pretty much the 5 volumes I hauled in March. So I read Eden Zero Volume 3, Volume 4, Volume 5, Volume 6, and Volume 7. So, Eden Zero is by Hiro Mashima, and it's his current series. Eden Zero is the story of a young man named Shiki who has lived all his life on a tourist planet populated by androids. The planet hasn't had a visitor in decades. Shiki is the only human on the planet. Slowly, gradually, the androids are breaking down, and there's no hope of repairing them. And so, eventually, Shiki will be all alone on the planet. One day, a young woman named Rebecca and her Exceed companion Happy come to Granbell to film a video. Rebecca is a beekeeper, basically a YouTuber. While Rebecca and Happy are there, the androids seemingly malfunction and try to kill her and Happy. Shiki saves them, and he flees Granbell with Rebecca and Happy and joins Rebecca on her adventures. So they go to Rebecca's home planet of Blue Garden to join her guild, and there they decide to go in search of Mother, a cosmic goddess being that Shiki is sure he's met before, though he can't remember it. So in order to go find Mother, they need a better ship, so they go off on their adventure. Volume 3 opens with Shiki and his friends getting the ship. Joining Shiki, Rebecca, and Happy are the robot, or the android Pino, and a younger version of Professor Wise. He's scummy. And while they're pretty much touring their new ship, Eden Zero, they meet one of the ship's avatars, one of the 4 shining stars created by Shiki's grandfather, the demon lord Ziggy, who is an android, not a demon. She tells them that there are 3 others, and that each of them, when they're united, Eden Zero is a significantly powerful ship. So Shiki and his friends go in search of the other 3. They gradually find them over the course of these 5 volumes and have adventures along the way. I had a blast with these volumes. They were great. I'm loving the characterizations, particularly Shiki, who's kind of like his quest for friends and connections. It's really well done. I mean, yeah, it can be a bit annoying, but I think it's really well done and quite endearing. I love Rebecca's character and Happy, and Pino is just a delight, and Weiss, who is, yes, a scumbag, is, in his own way, rather delightful too. And also other members of the crew. And joining them is Homura, a samurai who joins them in the quest to find a sister, the second of the 4 shining stars. She is this character here. And of course that's the Eden Zero, and that's Witch, the one who was with the ship. And Homura's character is wonderful. I really enjoyed her introduction and the sort of how her arc gradually unfolds. She's searching for the 4th of the 4 shining stars, Valkyrie, who we meet in the 7th volume, and well, part of the 6th, but mostly in the 7th, and the story will wrap up in the 8th volume, which, due to how I kind of operate my book hauls and stuff, I won't get to until the end of, well, probably I'll read it in May at some point. So May's going to be very manga heavy. But anyway, so yeah, I'm loving the characters, even the villains, who I'm rather pleased. Hiro Mashima is kind of making a lot of them far more scummy and evil, and you're wanting to see them mop the floor. I mean, particularly like Illega from the Gwillist arc, he is just repulsive. And Madame Kurenai from Senjul, she is just the worst. And I'm loving the artwork. I mean, the plot progression, the artwork is amazing. And I mean, honestly, I kind of want to show you this. Like, that ending just makes me want to break my rule and get to Eden Zero Volume 8, which I do have back there. So yeah, so Eden Zero saved the week, even though it was on Sunday, so it's like a great Sunday and then a whole slew of bells. Anyway, so what am I going to be reading this coming work week, and reading week? So this weekend I'm planning on reading The Spell by Alan Hollinghurst. This is his 3rd novel. It's about a gay architect who has this boyfriend whose ex-boyfriend ends up dating the architect's son, and they have pretty much like coming together and stuff like that. It's been a while since I've read it. I think about 15 years or more since I read it. Yeah, I think it's well over 15 years, so I'm well overdue for a reread on this. And I've also been working my way through Ellen Hollinghurst novels this year, although not much success. And I will, over the course of the work week, I will try to read the Ottomans by Marc David Baer. This is a history of the Ottomans, and I'm quite looking forward to it. And of course, if there are any bails, well, I think if I bail on the spell, I will go ahead and start the Ottomans then, rather than read something else. And then just have the Ottomans, and then work on next weekend and the last few days of April next week. So yeah. So I do want to touch a bit on, before I sign off for the weekend, a few things. So the BookTube spin came out today, BookTube spin number 6. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time to film a prep video for that, to list the 20 books I was going to read and stuff. Although what I actually intended on doing for this BookTube spin, inspired by Rick McDonnell's example, was, instead of picking 20 books I was going to read, I was going to pick 20 books that I would buy. So the 2 books that, the 2 winning numbers were the books I would buy. And I'd also created a second list for manga. So basically, when I decided to restart my manga collection, I decided I was going to focus on a limited number of series at a time. Roughly about, I think I'd originally intended for like 5 series, but it kind of expanded to 7. So the 7 are Fairy Tale by Hiro Mashima, Eden Zero by Hiro Mashima, Adorable Hanako-kun by Ida Iro, The 7 Deadly Sins by Nakaba Suzuki, Full Metal Alchemist by Hiromu Arakawa, Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle by Clamp, and Magi, The Labyrinth of Magic by Shinobu Otaka. Of the 7, I have finished or caught up with 2. I finished Tsubasa Reservoir Chronicle, although they're not uniform. I may have 24 of the individual tankobon and 3 of the omnibus volumes. But I mean, I've got the entire series. I've also, pretty much by the end of this month, I will catch up with Eden Zero. I have 4 volumes behind me, which gets me to volume 11, and then I have 4 more volumes coming in, which will get me to volume 15, which will catch me up, and then I've got volume 16 pre-ordered, and then as succeeding volumes come in, I will collect them. So, and then I will, pretty much I need to pick 2 volumes, which I think I'm not going to use the BookTube spin to decide that. I'd originally thought about it, but then now I'll kind of make that decision on my own. So anyway, BookTube, I've been summoned, so I'm going to go ahead and shut up. I'm going to end the video for now. So thank you, BookTube. Have a great weekend, and I will see you on Monday. So until then, thank you. Have a great weekend and evening, and stay safe.